Hi, Alan Dunn here. Today I'm going to be looking at the C-skip, used as a running drill. It's used primarily with hurdlers working on external rotation, going over the hurdle, but it does actually have some use too with normal field athletes working on external rotation and short ground contact time, as with most sprint and running drills. So I'm just going to play through it at normal speed now. This is going to be a unilateral C-skip that you can see here. And I would use this as a regression of the full C-skip that would be working on left and right. So for this example, I'm just working on the right side. So we'll slow it down and just go through it bit by bit. So we have short ground contact time coming into hip flexion on the right, short ground contact time, hip flexion and hip abduction, back into hip flexion and abduction. What we're looking for is nice arm action, so cues that you could use for this would be hip to lip or mouth to back pocket, whatever you find useful yourself, I suppose. Just with this example here, probably not getting enough triple extension on the left side. So as the leg comes up, I'm just going to pause it here. Probably not getting enough drive coming through there. So the in around, especially in around the knee, not getting near enough extension going in through there, and lacking a small bit on the ankle too. Going to play through there again. Arm action is fairly good on this, and external rotation pretty good too. Just one thing that I will point out is coming down to the foot, the left foot on external rotation does tend to creep into internal rotation. So with athletes, this is something that I'd aim to hammer home, that it would be toes as straight really as possible, and not looking for any shift in the weight around. So make sure that the athlete is having forward momentum, and that is the C-skip regression, just unilateral. So here we have the normal C-skip. This would be the level that I try and get people to, at least following on from the regression of the unilateral C-skip. So this is going to be doing both sides. I'm going to run through it here and going left and right. So this is more challenging. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of coaching from the strength and conditioning coaches too, to actually get the technique right on this. If I slow it down and just play it through, that internal rotation that I was talking about at the feet is far more pronounced on this version of the C-skip. So we can see even in through the left foot already, even without the hip abduction and hip flexion there, there's still an internal rotation there. So it is important to have regressions, and even if you wanted to just walk the athlete through it before you actually bring in any kind of dynamic or plyometric effect to it, it is important to get the technique right, as with any exercise really. And we can see when he comes into hip flexion on the right, and we're going to switch to the other side now. And there's going to be a huge internal rotation on the right side now, to try and accommodate for, I suppose, lack of mobility and lack of practice at the drill too. Also looking for hip levels to remain more or less constant throughout, and again keep momentum going forward, and also upward, keeping a good triple extension coming through that there. So with the first example I showed, it's a lot easier to see that rather than now, and that is the normal C-skip. And the final example I'm going to show is the normal C-skip with the hands raised in the air. It's just going to try and teach the athlete to stay nice and upright. You can use a dowel stick, a band, anything at all to challenge the athletes even more. You could also use a resistance band, actually pulling the athlete in a posterior direction too. So there are numerous ways, along with having hurdles or a ladder on the side as well, that the athlete would have to be a bit more accurate with the step too. But for the time being, I suppose, and for the purpose of these videos, it's just not deemed necessary really to go into that much detail with it, and just get the basics right first, I suppose, as with anything. So just gonna go through it normal here. And just coming back to here, you see it challenges a small bit more. So that's it here, loses balance kind of. The left hand will play a small bit. So it is challenging. Although it might look pretty similar, but it is of a challenging nature. Again, really need to coach that internal rotation and get momentum going forward rather than losing any momentum out to the sides.